Morning, everybody. Thanks for coming back for yet another day to help us get the word out and keep our public updated on this emerging recovery. And so I want to start by just saying we continue to see really strong progress in the restoration of water work. Our distribution system is fully pressurized, 19 filters and 5 pumps actively working, support from 2 backup pumps, but now all water zones are pressurized above that 20 psi threshold, and the reservoir level is at 18 feet. Our boiled water advisory remains in place for now, and we're making headway on the testing process to confirm that water supply is safe for drinking. We began collecting our first round of samples across the system yesterday, and we expect the results from those by around 3 p.m. today. Remember, the second set of tests happened 16 hours after that first round, and so crews are out collecting those samples now. Those should start cooking in the lab shortly, and so we expect results from those, and we anticipate that everything, if it goes well, will be negative, and we'll be able to lift that boiled water advisory sometime Saturday morning. Want to just provide a little insight into the testing process, right? The first round and second round separated by 16 hours, but each round of testing requires pulling multiple samples from multiple points across the entire distribution network. Those samples are then prepped and submitted to the lab and then looked at in an incubator over 24 hours to see if there's any bacterial growth. Once you get to that 24-hour mark, if there's no bacterial growth, that's deemed confirmed a negative test and that water is safe for consumption. We, just as a precautionary, yesterday we actually took some samples from the entry point at the water plant just to make sure the filters were up and running, and so we have 2 different sites there that have been confirmed as negative, so that means that our filters are doing their job. But again, we need to get confirmatory testing out at the distribution points throughout the network. As you all know, we are expecting another winter storm that will start sometime tonight around 5 to 7 p.m. and go into the morning. And so given our experience from this past Monday, here are the steps that we have taken to bolster our staffing, to bolster our resources at the water plant in an effort to just make sure that we can provide operational continuity. So we have brought in additional supports from our state and regional partners who will be on site at the water treatment plant. The staff component that will be on site at the treatment plant tonight includes employees from all trades, including mechanics, electricians, plant operators, internal engineers. We will also have additional consult support. So, for example, the consulting firm that oversees the IT system will be on site. The Virginia Department of Health will also be on site, and then some contracted engineers will join us as well. We've also had additional equipment that's been delivered and installed, the new battery backup battery that's come in, as well as additional repair parts that'll be on site and additional filters if those are needed. We've instituted that supervisors do visual inspections of all the components of the operation, and during each shift, we'll be doing a checklist roll call and reviewing processes across all of the essential areas of the plant operation. We have refreshed the plant emergency contact list, and then we've instituted a process for hourly status check-ins. Outside of the plant, out in the community, our DPW team, Department of Public Works team, is activated. They have been salting and sanding roads. Plows are ready if needed. And so, our immediate priorities, though, really remain focused on the successful completion of the testing process and the lifting of the boiled water advisory, and then ensuring that we are fully supporting the water treatment plant operation tonight and can get through the storm. Because of a lot of the shifting of staff, you may see some changes to the water bottle distribution operation today. So again, I'll hand off to Tracy to give you an update of what we're doing to distribute water out in the community.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mayor. Again, good morning, everyone. I'm Tracy DeShazer, Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Human Services. So this morning, I am again going to be providing you with an update on both our inclement weather shelter operations as well as water distribution. First and importantly, we are further enhancing our water distribution efforts to ensure that our residents continue to have access to the resources they need. As I have shared, our water distribution efforts are and continue following two tracks. Track one is our prioritization of our residents who may be experiencing the greatest need. Again, this includes our children and our child care facilities, our older adults, individuals experiencing homelessness, our immigrant and refugee communities, and communities who may be facing other barriers. As a reminder, residents with mobility and transportation and other challenges should continue using 311. Richmonders, we ask that you reserve this option for those with the greatest need. Yesterday, I provided you with several considerations as you make your request. Consider your neighbors, but know that if you are in need, we are here to serve you. Next, I would like to address our Track 2 citywide distributions. Distributions across all 11 designated sites will continue today. At those sites, residents will continue to have access to bottled and or carton water. Distributions will begin again today without delay. Again, I want to emphasize, they will begin again today without delay at 10:30 a.m., again, across all 11 sites. Now, I do want to take a moment to first just acknowledge the challenges that we experienced yesterday. As I shared with you during yesterday's press conference, that those challenges really started as a result of an issue with our large truck that we had coming in with the bulk of our supply yesterday. As we experienced issues with that truck and just some navigation around it, it actually got stuck in a particular area. It did delay our ability to then get the water off of that truck, ultimately out to those sites across the city. So we recognize and acknowledge that we had a number of residents that were in place and ready at that designated time that we shared, and they were waiting. And so, one, we apologize for that, but please know that given those lessons learned yesterday, we have corrected and remedied those issues so that we are ready to go this morning, and again, promptly at 10:30 a.m. Now let's discuss our enhancements. Today, to ensure that residents are not only prepared for the remainder of this event, but also prepared for the upcoming inclement weather, we have added some additional sites to further address the need. What we are doing is actually bringing in 9 potable water tankers. In fact, one is actually on site and it was operational yesterday. I shared this at Southside Plaza. We are bringing in additional potable water tanks. The largest capacity tanks, which each have 6,000 gallons of water, again, are at Southside Plaza, which was put in place yesterday. There's another 6,000-gallon tank that will be at Pine Camp Community Center and Hickory Hill Community Centers. In partnership with the state and the support of the Virginia National Guard, we will be bringing on board 6 additional 2,000-gallon tanks. Those 2,000-gallon tanks, the one for the 7th District, it will not be at EDI or the East End District Initiative because of logistics. There we have a roundabout and logistical challenges. So while we will continue bottled and carton water distribution there, the tank will be at Powhatan Community Center. Moving on, we will have a tank at Midtown Green, Westover Hills, West End Library. Rather than Belle Meade Community Center, we will have the tank located at Oak Grove Elementary. And then finally, for the 6th District, rather than the Annie Giles Center, we will have the tank itself at Ann Hardy. Now to clarify, distribution of bottled and carton water will continue at those 11 designated sites. These sites that I've just shared are the sites where the tanks will also be located. Residents will be able to bring jugs and they can take as much water as they can carry from the tanks. Today, as supply allows, we may be able to also expand the number of liters that we are providing residents. But again, as of now, it is 3 liters per person per household. So again, this is in addition to our bottled water and carton water distributions. Finally, I want to acknowledge that we have had incredible partnerships with several organizations, but one in particular has really heeded the call, and that is Feed More. And recognizing that a number of our residents that are in need of water are also in need of food, you may have seen that we also had food distributions across our 10 of our 11 sites yesterday. Those distributions will continue today as supplies last. As a reminder, in addition to our city employees that are supporting our distribution efforts, we have partners from the faith community who are serving alongside us, as well as the American Red Cross. Now I'm going to take a moment to provide you with an update on our inclement weather shelter and inclement weather overflow shelter operations. As I shared, we continue to operate the inclement weather shelter in partnership with the Salvation Army at 1900 Chamberlain Avenue. That site does have capacity, and it is a slight expansion of 106 individuals. That includes capacity for single adult men and women. Marshall Plaza has been activated as an inclement weather overflow shelter. There we are serving single adult men, single adult women, and children and families. And then, as I shared yesterday, we did have to activate the 2nd Police Precinct Community Room. So far there, we are serving single adult men. Again, we continue to be prepared and here to serve. I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Okay, now we're going to open it up for questions.
We're going to start on this end of the room, work our way down. Let's try to restrict it to one question. If you have a follow-up question, please try to keep it concise.
So I know you said there's going to be a lot of information coming in the after-action report. There have been some calls for an independent investigation. Do you trust that the city can get to the bottom of this on its own, or would you welcome some independent outside look at what happened here?
The question is, there have been some calls for an independent investigation, and would I welcome that? And we are absolutely outsourcing this. We're going to bring in a third party to do that investigation. I think in the immediate aftermath, we needed to get in there and figure out what we could so that we could get prepared for tonight. But absolutely, we have already put calls out to several different vendors, and I expect early next week we will have an independent third-party investigator on board to start that process for us. Next?
Next question.
I was going to ask that, sir.
Great.
Sam?
I wanted to ask if you heard from Mayor Stoney during this, and I also wanted to ask when April Bing would be available for questions.
The question is, have I heard from Mayor Stoney throughout this, and will Ms. Bingham be available for questions? Yeah, Mayor Stoney has reached out a couple times, sent me texts of encouragement, and just said, you know, I know this is hard, and you're doing a great job. So I've been very appreciative of his support, but that has been about the extent of our communication. And yeah, you know, April is on site right now. She's on site at the water plant. Where I need her focus is really making sure that everything is up and running. All of those steps that she's been overseeing over the last 48 hours at the water plant in preparation for tonight, that's where I need her focus. As we get through the storm, she'll be available for questions and discussion early next week.
Jamal?
And my question was from yesterday. How many people or households were without water at the peak, and how many currently now are still without water at this moment?
We do not have any water outages at all. Sorry, the question you asked is how many people were without water at the peak, and how many are currently without water. Yesterday, I thought you asked about electrical, right? And I think we followed up. There were no current outages reported by Dominion. And at the peak, I don't have the answer to how many people. I mean, I think it was most of the city. There were some folks who maybe had some trickle of water, but it was a city, and not just citywide, but really the regional distribution network that depends on us. I think almost everybody was out of water. So you want the total number of households that are served by our distribution network? Okay, yeah, we will pursue that. Thanks, Jamal.
Does the city have any plans to provide rent relief aid to those who couldn't work because of the lack of water in the city?
The question is, does the city have any plans to provide rent relief aid for those who were not able to work because of the lack of water access? We are pursuing pathways at both the state and the federal level for recovery funds. And if we're able to procure recovery funds, we would absolutely love to help support folks who have really suffered as a result of this event. Thanks, guys.
Mr. Mayor, you addressed the precautions that are being taken ahead of this weekend to ensure that we don't see anything like this. Again, can you address or speak to what, if any, precautions are being put in place to stop this from happening just on a regular day, just to ward off from this without severe weather or any other factors like that?
Yeah, the question is, I've talked about precautions for this weather event. What precautions are we putting in place for standard operations at the water treatment plant? I'll just remind everybody that it has been 21 years since we have had an outage. It was 2003 during Isabel where we had flooding at the water treatment plant and a boiled water advisory, and it wasn't quite as severe and extended as this. But so part of our after-action review will be investigating what actually happened to lead to this event, looking at what investments we need to make, whether there are machinery, infrastructure, information technology, et cetera, and then really preparing for resilience and sustainability beyond this initial period. So more to come on that. I mean, we will absolutely need the help of this independent assessor to really map out those recommendations, and we'll absolutely share them at that time.
And the special precautions for this weekend are only in place for this weekend?
That's correct, yeah.
Next question.
So I believe that you guys said yesterday that it was still a possibility that that boil advisory would potentially be lifted later today, but it seems like the timeline with the testing taking place, even if both of those tests came back negative, would be the earliest Saturday morning. I think a lot of people are feeling like you guys keep moving the goalposts, not a lot of transparency here. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, the goalpost keeps moving because I was pretty clear about this yesterday, that we cannot start the testing process until we have full pressurization of the system. And so, we thought we would get there. The reservoir was full, but it was dynamic based on consumption, right? And ultimately, we got enough water out. The reservoir was able to provide pressure to the entire system, and then we were finally getting to that point where all 9 distribution zones met the 20 PSI threshold. And so that is when we could start the collection process. At this point, that first round is in, as I said, and so we're doing the second round of collection right now, and that should be within the hour or so, and then we will have a final confirmatory read sometime Saturday morning.
Yes, you mentioned earlier that we do have a lot of aging infrastructure, particularly at that water treatment facility. What tangible steps are being made to ensure that real investments are being made so that we don't have to keep referring to aging infrastructure, but that we have something that's more up-to-date and robust to prevent things like this from happening?
Yeah, the question is what tangible steps are being made to address aging infrastructure. And I'll first say that, investing in update, I mean, this is hundreds of millions of dollars of investment that likely, not just at the Richmond City water treatment plant, but to our entire system. And so I think part of our after-action process is looking at all of the options, right? What does it take to really modernize our system? What kind of investment and how available might that funding be from both the state and the federal level? But then also looking at, are there different approaches to regionalizing and creating redundancy and having a more integrated water system? So I think all of those things will be on the table. And as we get into the work, not just of after action here, but really thinking more broadly about how to create a more resilient system, we will absolutely do that in conjunction with our regional and state partners.
Thank you again, Mayor, for taking our questions here. I just have 2 follow-ups from the afternoon of the conference yesterday.
Yeah.
Were you able to find out why 2 of Richmond's 3 backup batteries were out of service? Were they already out of service before Monday, and are they all working for tonight's storm? And then 2, did you find out why staff were not aware of the manual procedure to go in and turn off the valves to prevent the flooding for Monday's storm? Was that a training issue, and has everyone been trained to do that, in the event that it happens again?
The first question was about backup batteries. We, again, as I shared yesterday afternoon, that'll be part of our after-action review. What we did in the meantime was ordered a new backup battery that was delivered and installed over sometime within the last few hours. So we have another backup battery in place. The second was a question about, I forget, sorry.
The manual process to turn off the valves in the event of flooding. Why staff didn't know about that? Have they been trained now?
Yeah, and I should say, I don't know that that was an issue of staff not knowing about it. You know, again, there's a lot of details about the step-by-step of how we got to flooding that will come out in our immediate investigation that starts right after this weather event.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Quick
Appreciate
question
it.
for clarity testing. We know that 16 hours is needed between these tests, but if this second test comes back negative, is that same 16 hours needed to do another?
The 16 hours is the second test is already happening. Oh, you're saying if the second test comes back
Or
positive, that then would restart the clock altogether because you need 2 negative tests spaced 16 hours apart. Now, I think the likelihood of that is incredibly low. Remember that we've done testing at the distribution site to make sure the filters are working correctly, all negative. The other reality is that, as I've shared along the way, the possibility of bacterial contamination is low to begin with, even in a low pressure situation. And second, as water has re-entered the system, we have really optimized the amount of chlorination to kill any potential contaminant. So I think between those two steps, yes, it's possible, but I'm optimistic that we will have 2 negative tests come this time tomorrow morning.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.